Welcome to Small Town Tiimes. Today I have Joe Drinkwalter here. Thanks for coming in.
That camera? Hi.
Yeah, there you go. You're at the beginning stages of an acting career, and you're going to be the lead in an upcoming Gateway Theatre play coming up. Tell me about that play, and when is it going to be?
Yeah. Oh, this is bad. I don't know the date. I don't have the dates memorized.
I think it's around May 10th or so.
May 10th or so. And then we're also doing the Quanta Festival, so it's a drama festival.
Yeah, it's going to be a big weekend.
Yeah. I have to now make a public apology to my director. I'm sorry. I don't have the dates memorized.
It's okay. You don't need to. It's not in the lines, man.
Anyway, the play is set in 1925 Newfoundland. It follows two characters, Jacob and Mary, and it's kind of the beginning of their love story, which is then we see later in the two following plays that David French wrote.
What do you think of this experience so far?
It's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, I've done two plays for Gateway this year. The first being Leaving Home, where I played Ben Mercer, which is Jacob Mercer's son.
Yeah.
That was an incredible cast. I've known a lot of those people for a long time, so it was a pleasure working with everybody, including two old drama teachers, Al McCaskill and Allison Green, as well as another teacher who directed me, Tanya Ciccarelli. That was an incredible experience. And here I am again with another incredible creative team with our director, Joanna McPherson, stage manager, Maureen Cassidy, and my incredible co-actor, Mariah Boyk.
This is really interesting, like a Back to the Future thing, because you played the son, and now you're playing the father at his age.
The young version of the father. Yeah, about his age, a little younger, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's very cool, because so chronologically, in the order that they were written and produced, Leaving Home was first. So we see, this Jacob in his late 40s, 50s. He's a little mean. He's a little jaded. He has a lot of armor on him, kind of emotional armor. And then him and the character I played, Ben, tend to butt heads a lot because of that. They're very different people. And then in Saltwater Moon, which was released, the last play in the cycle, in the 3-play cycle that was released, there's 5 in total, we get to see this 18-year-old version of Jacob, who's, we see hints of in the previous play, but we get to see him kind of before he, went through those next 30, 40 years of life.
That's kind of cool. Sounds like any East Coast family I've ever heard of, really, right? And most Northern Ontario. I went to Newfoundland for a visit, and it was so much like living up when I was up in Kapuskasing. The landscape, everything was very similar, stunted growth trees and whatnot. And basically, you have that, you're raised a little harder.
Yeah. Right? It's funny that you mentioned that, actually, that last point there. Leaving Home specifically is such an accessible play. A lot of people who watch it say things like, they see their own family members in these characters. They see, whether it's their dad, their grandpa, their uncle, whatever. And that just comes down to the writing. I mean, David French is such a prolific playwright, and he's able to tell these really slice of life stories in a way in which you see your own family members in these characters, as well as telling the story of the play, the conflict and all that.
And you came up through theater. When did you start?
So I started very young in just community theater. Dreamcoat Fantasy Theater would have been my first play, 2011, 2012, something like that.
Yep.
I owe that to my parents, 100%. I was the kid picking dandelions on the soccer field. Or
I saw you come up through sports.
Oh, yeah, I know you did, yeah. Or Timbits hockey. All the kids tend to just gather around the puck and move around like that. I would be off at the other side of the rink talking to myself or singing to myself or whatever. My dad always wanted to put a mic in my helmet to sing.
Oh, yeah, that would have been great, yeah.
That was, yeah. And so my parents put 2 and 2 together and put me in musical theater, and that was the start of it. I've been doing it ever since. I've done a lot of productions, through Dreamcoat, through Toros, but also, our local film industry. I've done a few movies, and then some smaller projects just with me and my friends kind of thing, especially when I was down south for university. And Yeah, I always got to keep busy with that stuff. It's,
you came out of West Ferris, eh? So,
yeah.
Right on.
That's
which university and what'd you take?
So I went to formerly Ryerson University. Now it's called Toronto Metropolitan University. I took acting there. Did 2 years, one of which was in person. The other one was online. And it's a 4-year program. After that one online year, I decided I'm going to take a little break from it. So came home. I guess it's been 2 years now, and I'm going back in September to finish it.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
What do you like about theater?
I've always been drawn, whether it's theater, film, music, any kind of art, I've always been drawn to storytelling, which, is what acting is, right? It's being a part of a greater story while also telling, your own personal story of that character. I find it a really unique ability. I've always had a quite an appreciation for people that are able to tell stories, be it complex stories, simple stories, emotional stories, through music. One of my favorite musicians, Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah,
he
ballads.
He's been on record as saying, like, when I came up, I didn't have the best voice. I wasn't the best guitarist, but I really, he became famous through his ability to tell these stories and access these emotions in people that, even if you're the best vocalist in the world, you don't necessarily have that skill set.
Yeah, people become very attached to a story because they see themselves in it or they feel something, right? So it's very important.
And it's not to say that, every story has to be widely accessible to everybody, but the feeling that it kind of sparks in you, I guess would be the term. I feel like that's pretty universal. So, to go back to Leaving Home or even the current play, Saltwater Moon, not everybody was an 18-year-old in 1925 Newfoundland. In fact, out of everyone in the world, I'd say very few people.
Small sample size.
Small sample size, but David French, an incredible storyteller, playwright. He's able to create this world to make you feel like for an hour and a half, to make you feel like you were in 1925 Newfoundland in September, while also telling this beautiful love story between these two people of Jacob trying to win Mary back. While also telling the story of these two characters' relationships with their parents, how they were affected by World War I. That's a huge theme in the play as well. And then, and also just, building this Newfoundland world, which I feel like nobody else could do but somebody who was born in Newfoundland, like David French.
Being able to have someone like David French tell that story, you can really see how people are constructed through their different transitions in life, eh?
Yeah. I think, we're the sum total of our experiences, right? And that's an excellent point. We see that. That's it's not often that you get to see a trilogy in theater, much less a trilogy be performed, like Gateway Theatre Guild has done.
Yeah. And
that's exactly what you get to see. You get to see how certain experiences have changed all of these characters, not just Jacob or Mary, but their sons, their kids, and that's the super interesting part about going back in time for this last play is you get to see Jacob when he's 18, and you get to see him before he went through the some real hardships in life, but also as an 18-year-old, as an only child in Newfoundland, when his father went off to war, right, you get to see how he has already been kind of hardened in life as well at only 18. Yeah.
Can someone appreciate all that if they miss those other ones and see the last one? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah?
That's it comes down to David French. I'll praise him till the end of time. He constructs these stories in such a way where, if you have the pleasure of seeing all three, it's one experience. But if you only see one in a vacuum, it works just as well. And he does that by having, these super interesting conflicts, again, in the individual plays, usually multiple between different characters. Leaving Home, for example, I feel a little better spoiling this one because we've already produced it. But if you haven't read it or seen it, I recommend you do before listening to this. But in Leaving Home, you have so many kind of balls in the air that you're juggling. You have two characters that are pregnant that are kind of having a little bit of a shotgun wedding. You have another character that's about to leave home, hence the title, without telling his dad, or he's kind of put off telling his dad. That's the character I played. He's also in university. And then you have Ben's relationship with Jacob, Jacob's relationship with Mary, where they get along, where they butt heads. You also get to see Ben's kind of little brother in that play too. You get to see their relationship. You get to see his. You get the point. Like there's so many things going on, which is another reason that it's such an interesting play to watch. Like such an exciting play to watch because there's always something happening. And then sometimes maybe you'll forget about a point of conflict, forget about a plot point, and then it'll surprise you again. It'll jump back in. But anyway, to go back to your question, these plays really they work in a vacuum as well. They work kind of separate from each other, and also just so happen to be, the same characters in the same world.
Gateway celebrating what is it, 75th or 70th anniversary? It's up there. I think it might be 75th. That's something I should know. But
something I should know too.
I did write the story and feature it in my magazine. I should know.
We can do ADR after this. We can pretend that we know the dates. And
75. Anyway, we'll say 75 just for now.
For now.
It might be 70. Wait a sec. I should probably figure this out with some math.
Sorry.
I think it's 70. I don't know.
We can Google it. I turned my phone off, but...
No, I think it might be 75. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And unfortunately, I can't edit
long time. Long time, nonetheless.
Yeah,
That's a long time to be putting on shows.
Let's put it this way. Gateway Theatre Guild is an institution in North Bay, and it's had some excellent talent go through it. And to be able to be a lead in one of their plays at your age is an accomplishment, really. Testament to your dedication. Yeah.
I mean, it's just been a pleasure. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have been cast in these roles, and I've played them to the best of my ability, and I've had a lot of fun along the way. Again, I've worked with some incredible people, and the way I see it, like I'm quite a small part in these beautiful stories that we're telling, and it's an honor. It's an absolute honor. Yeah.
Ben did us the favor and fact checked it, and it's the 75th anniversary.
I knew that. I was testing. I was testing Dave.
Well, I've been tested, and I'm testy sometimes, but appreciate that. I don't get to see very many plays. I don't like sitting in one spot for very long, and but it is very sort of. For someone like me that's not into it very much, it's like a treat to see the work. I know that it's a lot of work and it's a lot of talent on display, and it just doesn't happen. And so I when I'm sitting there, I really appreciate the teamwork that it takes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with any play, it takes a lot of people, a lot of dedicated people, from the stuff that you see on stage, the actors, the set, somebody has to design that set, sometimes build that set, locate the furniture if it's a kind of home that you're building. And then you also, behind the scenes, of course, you have your director, sometimes assistant director, stage manager, sometimes assistant stage manager, a whole list of people, not to mention, things like publicity, things like producing, marketing. All of that has to come together. A lot of moving parts. But I would say, like, especially with a play like Saltwater Moon, the stars really have to align, I guess, with the team you're building, because, as I've said before, and I'll say a million times, it's such a rich text, but also a subtle text. You need a team that is dedicated to, to say, researching 1925 Newfoundland and understanding, what life was like at that time. Your actors have to research what their lives might have been like, and you do that by reading the text, and, sometimes it gives you exactly the information you're looking for is written in a monologue or in a line or something, but sometimes you have to infer, right?
Would you think that 1925 is a little bit harder to live through than 2023?
In rural Newfoundland, absolutely. In general, probably.
Times were tough.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, you're going through just after the war, and that alone is just a mountain of damage that you see, you know, in broken families, in a broken economy, in
entire communities in Newfoundland were wiped out because all their men went to war, and there was major disasters in some of the battles.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
This isn't a spoiler because you know it's history. It actually happened, but there's a really excellent monologue in Saltwater Moon where Jacob tells the story of Beaumont Hamel in the first Battle of Somme, and how it was just a massacre. You know, what's the? I'm trying to think of the line. Out of 400 men, out of 700 men, only 40 not dead or wounded, or something like that.
Yeah,
750. That's what it is. Out of 750 men, only 40 not dead or wounded. Right. And then you have the other atrocities of that war, right? The November storm, 200 men killed by the weather, not even, you know, another soldier. But
you can only imagine what I was like for all the families and wives and whatnot.
It's a theme that's very prevalent in all of the plays in this play cycle. So there's 5 in total. Gateway has produced 3, and the kind of 3 main ones that are known and have been, you know, or studied kind of in schools, and that's Leaving Home, Of the Fields Lately, and Saltwater Moon. But there's 2 others. One of them in particular, it's called Soldier's Heart, and it actually, you see Jacob, even younger at 16, talking to his dad, who was lucky enough to survive the war, who came back, and at the time they called it shell shock, but before that they called it Soldier's Heart, and you get to hear him tell all of these stories of the war and the horrors that he faced. And Saltwater Moon is interesting in that sense that you don't hear it right from, you know, the soldier that was actually in World War I, but you hear kind of the waves of damage, right? How it affected this family, how it affected these 2 families, kind of thing.
Wow. And the prize for surviving all that was the Great Depression right after.
Yeah, the Great Depression, and then also, you know, shell shock, your PTSD that wasn't really taken seriously at that time, right? Like it's.
Imagine he had survivor's guilt too, like, you know, all his buddies dying and stuff like that.
And if you haven't read Soldier's Heart, you should also do that. That's just, again, it's a very text heavy play. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily one that I think a lot of people would love to sit through. I would, because I'm a huge nerd about it, and that's what I love. But complete, like you say, you know, you're not the type to sit still, and that's completely fair. But yeah, I mean, it takes place at a train station, and it's basically just these 2 characters, father and son, talking about the war, and the son desperately trying to connect with his father, who really, you know, left when he was 10, came back when he was 14. And was, you know, PTSD ridden, a different man, and didn't really talk to him, and you know, really put him in some dangerous situations, right? Like, but you get to see the struggle of this son trying to connect to his father, and this father who eventually, you know, struggles, but eventually tries to connect with the son over the war.
I'm going to read you a question that I got from Loretta.
Hi, Loretta.
Di Eugenio? Di Eugenio? Do you know how to say her last name?
I'm not gonna try. I'm sorry,
anyway,
Loretta.
She's one of the directors, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she was the director of the Fields Lately.
Ah, right.
Yeah. So that takes place 2 years after Leaving Home in the early 1960s.
So here's the question that she offered as a suggested question, because I asked her to.
Sure.
Do you think, having played your character's son in the first play of David French's Mercer Trilogy, Leaving Home, has helped you to gain a better understanding of his father, Jacob Mercer, the character you are currently playing in Saltwater Moon? And if so, how? And if not, why not?
Absolutely. It just provides a different perspective, and a perspective that I'm very fortunate to have, because not a lot of people get to play both of these kind of infamous characters. In Leaving Home, one of the things we played with was the few ways in which these two characters are similar, whether it's a mannerism or a something they kind of have in common, something they bond over. The relationship with Mary, Ben's mother and Jacob's wife.
Yeah, the Back to the Future moment.
Yeah. But yeah, it provides such an interesting perspective, and then to see Jacob around the same age as Ben,
right?
And to see in what ways they were even more similar than what you got to see in Leaving Home or Of the Fields Lately. Of the Fields Lately is such an interesting play because at the end of Leaving Home, Jacob and Ben have a falling out, and Ben ends up leaving and doesn't talk to his father for 2 years until he comes back home for a funeral. And you get to see the aftermath of that conflict, and also just how these two characters haven't changed in that sense. In some ways they have, but in a lot of ways their relationship remains the same. And there's a really beautiful analogy in Of the Fields Lately of a brick wall between these two characters. How it started when Ben was very young and ignored his father when his father came to a baseball game. He says that was the first brick that was laid. And then since then, both of these characters just kept building this wall. And once that wall's built, you can try to chip away at it. You can try to take it down brick by brick, but ultimately you can't.
Best you can probably do with something like that is, as a father and a son, with my life experiences, the walls need to be turned into foundations by building around them.
I like that. That's a really beautiful
Make
analogy.
A platform.
Yeah. And that's part of the tragedy of these two characters is ultimately they can't. And, neither of these characters really realize this wall is being built until it's too late. And then from there, it just keeps on building. And it keeps on getting higher. And that's another wonderful part of Soldier's Heart, is you get to see Jacob and his father talk. And whatever wall got built, you see it become a foundation, or you see it getting taken down a little bit. And throughout all of the plays, Jacob has a lot of respect for his father, and that's very, very prevalent, and perhaps just a sign of the times, that was, which is another thing that frustrates Jacob in Leaving Home and Of the Fields Lately is the lack of respect that he gets from his son, right? Whether it's rightfully so or not, that's up to the audience's discretion. But yeah, I mean that's the sign of some great characters written by a great playwright. Is these characters are complicated. You're not rooting for one all of the time over the other. Sometimes you're not rooting for either of them. Sometimes they're both, difficult. But it's human. And that's why people see themselves in these characters or see people they know in these characters.
That strongest bond between the viewer or the theater goer and any story really is that human condition that you recognize, and you can sort of see yourself in. Now, I know that you come from a fairly stable family. Comparatively, right?
That was the I can say this now. That was the hardest part about playing Ben and Leaving Home, was just realizing that I didn't see my father in this character. My dad's great. Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
My mom.
Trent's a good dude.
Awesome. Yeah. I owe most everything I have to the way they raised me and allowing me to get involved in theater when sports wasn't working out. And just supporting me through. The good times and the bad times and everything, right? And you don't see that in Leaving Home.
Yeah, well, there's not a lot of plays that have become this epic that are based on a well-functioning family.
Yeah, ultimately, name a single play or movie or TV show where things don't go wrong.
Yeah.
Right. That's what's interesting to watch is conflict.
Yes. How do you deal with conflict?
There's a wonderful analogy one of my professors in theater school gave, and it was you just want to keep building the conflict. You want to make it as impossible as you can. So imagine, somebody trying to move an elephant across a bridge, right? That's funny enough as it is. If you watch that as a sketch, that's pretty hilarious to watch. But then you add in, okay, there's another person moving another elephant on the same bridge, like a little rope bridge, Indiana Jones kind of style, right? Mm-hmm. And it's, I guess the purpose of that analogy is just to visualize why conflict is interesting. We want to make it as difficult for these characters as possible, And in this case, we're seeing some very real people. Again, it's very human, well-written characters that when you watch, you just you're supposed to at least see as regular people in these extraordinary circumstances,
Well, there's heroes among us for sure. And there's the protagonists and the flawed characters that we have. I'm interested. I might even go see this play.
Hey, yeah.
That'd be cool. My problem with sitting is the chairs. I can't. If I sit in one spot for too long, my back gets crippled up.
No, yeah. When I watch plays or even movies, you cycle through. Sometimes you sit. Sometimes you sit like this.
Yeah.
Sometimes you lean forward. You know.
Yeah. I'll have to adopt some type of regimen to get myself through it. I'm always big on the intermissions if they have.
That's part of the. Well, there's no intermission in this one too. It's a one act, so
yeah.
Get comfortable.
And
that's one of the challenging aspects, but challenging in a good way, challenging in a fun way. Is for as an actor, like tackling such a text-heavy show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right? There's not a whole lot of action. There's not a whole lot of stuff that happens on this stage. There's no, in some plays you'll have maybe a fight scene or some beautiful, some beautiful, beautifully staged scenes with like an ensemble show kind of thing. And this isn't a play that needs that. This is a play that needs the text and only the text. It's a love story where the two characters have very little, say, physical intimacy. There's no big romantic. This is maybe a little bit of a spoiler, but not really. There's no big romantic kiss at the end. There's no
sex scenes or nothing like that.
No, unfortunately, no, but there isn't. It's all in the text. Yeah. Everything's that you in a movie, right? When a character starts to monologue, you cut. So say Jacob has a monologue where he talks about the war, right? If that were a monologue in a movie, it would cut to scenes of that war and scenes of his father fighting with him maybe narrating over top or something like that, right? Part of the challenge doing this as a play is you don't have that. You have to build this world with imagery, through words, right? With descriptive language that, David French has given us. And, man, it's just been a lot of fun.
Have you tried writing?
I have.
Yeah.
I've done a bit of writing.
Yeah. Have you got a play put together? You want to...
No full-length plays. Those are very hard to write. Not that any writing is easy, but I've written a couple monologues. Mm-hmm. Not to plug anything, but I do have a YouTube channel with I think one monologue on it. Cool. Haven't done much.
I'll link that for sure.
Yeah, it's just my name, Joe Drinkwalter. I've actually, in terms of writing, I gravitate a lot more to music. I don't have a huge musical background. Obviously, I've done musical theater since I was young, and I've been playing guitar for about a decade. But that being said, not consistently. Like I'm not, I'm still pretty amateur when it comes to guitar. But yeah, I tend to gravitate to writing music. I actually have here's another shameless self promotion.
Do it. This is what we're here for.
I got an album coming out. Oh. Little 6-song EP. It's a bunch of songs that I wrote over the past few years.
Oh, right on.
4 years or so.
When's it coming out?
I'm hoping for sometime in May, sometimes towards the end of May.
Oh.
It's like I've just been picking away at it, right? It's more of a passion project than anything, but
yeah, don't be humble.
But that's just it. Is storytelling is universal, right? Yeah. You can tell stories through movie, through through songs or even through mediums without words, through painting, through
It's a lot of way to express yourself and to share your both thoughts and feelings and whatnot. Looking forward to seeing your album. How are you going to launch it?
That's kind of the question right now. It's interesting now. There's a lot of third party kind of not streaming services, but third party companies that put your music onto streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
So you can either pay by the album, pay a yearly subscription, et cetera, et cetera. So still have to do some research into that, but
yeah, well, it's a whole part of being an entertainer's path, right? You have to learn the entrepreneurial end, the marketing end, and good luck with all that.
Thank you.
Have you ever tried any comedy?
Comedy? I mean, I love comedy.
Yeah.
I've done like comedic shows, comedic like plays and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's comedy within, I think, any piece of writing, any big piece of writing. You need that relief as an audience. You can't be hit over the head for an hour and a half. You need some light moments. You need some fun moments, some funny moments. I'm a huge fan of improv. Shows like Whose Line Is It Anyway are definitely a big inspiration to me. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So there's more on tap. Right on. Appreciate that. And you're going back to school. And what do you think is in the future for you?
I mean, acting is definitely the forefront, the passion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something, no matter where my life takes me, I'm going to be doing it for the rest of my life. And not just as storytelling, I suppose, with acting being kind of the emphasis on it. I intend to be auditioning for the rest of my life. I've thought about moving out west where the film industry is a bit bigger, kind of Vancouver. Or close to LA, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've just like leaving home. I got a lot of balls in the air. I got a lot of things to consider, right? And I'm just
anything can happen.
I'm just right now just focused on kind of enjoying the journey of it all and the people I'm meeting along the way. And
if I can give you any advice at all, is just say yes to every opportunity that comes to you. Just don't filter out too many opportunities. Because they all lead to something. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So some of my favorite projects in any medium that I've worked on are, just friends approaching me with, hey, I have this script. Hey, I have this whatever, and just saying yes to it, just doing it. That's, one of the reasons, like my high school experience was such a rich time in my life and such a fun time in my life was I just said yes to any opportunity that came about and tried to find the fun in it, no matter what it was.
Right on. Is there a line that you can share with us that sticks out, that it sort of captures, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, this is an interesting line. Again, it's kind of at the height of the climax of a pretty emotionally intense scene between Jacob and Ben, and Ben ends it. Or Jacob's line, so Al McCaskill's line in the play was, back in my day, we blah, 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 blah. And he gets cut off because Ben says, back in your day, I'm sick of hearing about your, am I allowed to swear?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sick of hearing about your fucking day. This is my day, and we're strangers. To me, that's a line that always stuck out, I think, just because this play cycle spans from the early 1920s all the way to 1962.
Right.
And you see, a couple generations of people, a couple generations of families. And I don't think Jacob likes change, I suppose.
Right. Because it destabilizes. And when things happen like that, it takes some getting used to when changes happen when you're not prepared for them. Well, that's excellent. Well, I appreciate you coming in. You got an album coming up late May. You're going to launch. I'm going to follow that. That's cool. You're going to be in the play around May 10th, 11th for Gateway, as well as they're hosting Quanta.
Yeah. has been an absolute blast. I've never been on a podcast. It's,
Okay,
you know,
cool. Have you
it's a lot
been
of fun.
interviewed before?
Yeah. I've been interviewed, in front of a camera or
Yeah.
just audio kind of thing, and then it gets transcribed into an article. But this is such a cool medium because it's just conversation, right?
A good conversation. I like this long form.
Yeah.
It's I've been in the media business for a long time, and I started out taking notes and writing things and trying to reflect the conversations as accurately as possible and get that point across.
Yeah.
But you could never put it all in. And you miss some of the nuances of what, because the video camera, when it's on you, it captures your eyes and your
I
way.
think you miss the kind of the character. You miss the personality of the people when you just put it in words on a page, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, it's like, and also the context.
Yeah,
When someone says
sure.
something, like that was the biggest challenge as being a print news journalist was accurately reflecting what they meant as much as what they said.
Yes, you don't want to accidentally misquote somebody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
That makes it
cool
much
form.
harder though, and this is a lot easier because it's all
again,
on
like
you.
I say, this is just we're just talking, we're just shooting the shit. That's
Cool. And again, thanks again.
all right. Come out and see Saltwater Moon.